Hello, this is Professor Angelia with part 3 of Works of Hearts Child Development and Psychology class. Last time we ended on talking about birth and how that happens. I think we all pretty much know that. So we're going to start on cesarean operations performed. Before 1965, cesarean sections were performed in about 2 to 5% of all births. Okay, in 1980, it was 20.5% of all births were cesarean. 1987, it was 24.4% of all births. Now, I don't know if y'all remember, there was kind of a little scandal about that there's being a lot of unnecessary, cesareans happening in that time period. So that's actually the height of it. And I think because people started calling attention to that, it started going down. In 1990, it was 23.3. In 1993, it was 22.8. And by 1995, it was 20.8. So the cesarean rate has gone down, which tells me that, they might have had something, to that by saying that there were a lot of unnecessary cesareans happening. Low birth weight. Low birth weight continues to be a problem in the United States. About 1.4% of all births are born at a very low birth weight. So the percentage of births in the year here, in 1987, 7% of babies were born at a low birth weight. 1990, it was just 7.1. 93, it was 7.2. 95, we're up to 7.3. So it's going up every year. And people contribute that to a lot of different things. Not getting adequate prenatal care, smoking, drinking, doing drugs. Anything that you put in you goes into your baby. And I know a woman who was having 4-pound babies, and she was just smoking the whole time she was pregnant. Wonder why, Tips for healthy babies. Place babies on their backs to sleep. Putting babies back to sleep significantly reduces the risk of SIDS. There are some, and that's sudden infant death syndrome, for any of you who don't know. There are some medical conditions for which there are exceptions to this rule. And my youngest was one of those. They had punctured his lungs when he was born. They tried to cover it up, said it was because he breathed really deep. But I saw the woman jamming the tube and I heard the pop. So I know better. The hospital tried to cover it all up. But anyway, we were told to put him on his side. We had a little baby wedge for him to lay on his side. But anyway, there are reasons sometimes why you can't put a kid on their back to sleep. And your doctor will tell you that. Consult the baby's doctor if there are questions regarding the baby's health. Avoid exposing your baby to tobacco. Studies show that exposure to tobacco doubles the risk of SIDS and greatly increases the risks of childhood illnesses such as asthma and respiratory infections. No smoking. Breast milk helps to keep babies healthy. Studies show that babies who are breastfed have reduced risk of SIDS and of other childhood diseases such as inner ear infection and allergies, as well as adult diseases such as obesity and heart disease. Place your baby on a firm sleeping surface. Don't let your baby sleep on a sheepskin, waterbed, fluffy blanket, comforter, or pillow. And I see people doing that, and that scares me. We put our kid in the bed sometimes with us if they were having a really bad time, but we were right there next to them. We're making sure nothing happened. Resist the urge to put bumper pads, toys, stuffed animals, and other accessories in the crib with your baby. Now, as far as bumper pads, we did use those because, we felt like that was better than the kid having goose eggs on their head. But we had them tied on right. And you could just even a baby could just take their little hand and do that. So we didn't have like the big can we're just sitting in there and gonna suffocate your baby. There's always got to be some common sense in these things, folks. These items in the crib increase the risk of suffocation and of SIDS. Keep your baby warm, but not too warm. And the general rule is what will be comfortable for you is comfortable for your baby. Back in the older days, they had extra layers on baby. And I'm not going to say that contributed to any deaths. But I know when I was a kid, I was counseled that we had to wear undershirts and put that on your baby. But I remember in elementary school being hot and having to go to the water fountain and drink a lot. I remember, being dehydrated. Your tongue would hurt because you had on these undershirts and stuff. So, just use some common sense. Do what's comfortable for you. Yes, at first, on a newborn, for the first several months, they're going to be a little chillier because they're used to being at your body temperature. They're used to being in that, nice little womb where they're all comfy and warm. But after that, dress them like you would dress yourself, and use common sense. If you're running around in shorts in winter when it's 30 degrees, don't do that to your baby. Put some winter clothes on them. If you want to goof yourself up, that's fine. Don't goof up your baby. Keep your baby warm, but not too warm. Let the temperature in your baby's room be comfortable to you. So about, 72 degrees for the normal person. Use sleepers and regulate room temperature to keep the baby warm. And of course, we all like those little sleepers, those little onesies with little feet and all that. They're so cute, and they have little, things on them like Winnie the Pooh and stuff, Share your knowledge. Talk to anyone else who may care for your baby about these healthy tips. And that's, good for you to share your knowledge. If you hear some old wives' tale stuff floating around, you'd be like, no, that's not right. Because there's a lot of ignorance going on in certain areas about raising children. And people don't know any better. I'm just knocking stuff down over here. People don't know any better. So, it's okay to step in, and it's not that they're bad people. They just don't know any better. Breastfeeding in the United States. Overall, 60%. And that's good. That's gone up. That's the baby's natural food. It's the best thing for it. Lower income mothers, only 42%. African American mothers, only 37%. Latino mothers, 61%. So they beat the national average. So the Latino mothers know your babies really need the breast milk. It's their natural food, and it's got your antibodies and everything in it. So it's what's best for your baby. Native American or Alaskan Native mothers, 24%. Guys, Native Americans, First Nation people, we got to get that up. I know it's easier to get that bottle there. You don't have that kid hanging off your boob. But it's not what's best for them. And the source was the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So I didn't make that up. Social and language development, child developmental psychology. John Bowlby, attachment theory. It is common knowledge that infants and, for the most part, their principal caretakers typically develop a close bond during the first year of life, and that in the second year of life, children become distressed when they are forcibly separated from their mothers. However, the clinical importance of these bonds was not fully appreciated until John Bowlby introduced the concept of attachment in a report on the effects of the maternal deprivation. And that's Bowlby, 1951, if you want to look that up. Bowlby, in 1969, postulated that the pattern of an infant's early attachment to parents will form the basis for all later social relationships. On the basis of his experience with disturbed children, he hypothesized that when the mother was unavailable or only partially available during the first months of the child's life, the attachment process would be interrupted, leaving enduring emotional scars and predisposing a child to behavioral problems. I don't need to even comment on that, do I? The parent-child bond. A mother's bond with her child often starts when she feels fetal movements during pregnancy. Immediately after birth, most, but by no means all, mothers experience a surge of affection that is followed by a feeling that the baby belongs to them. And the exception to this rule is people with postpartum depression. That's a debilitating condition for you and your baby. It can mess up your relationship if you don't do some damage control, after that gets solved, assuming you do take care of that and solve that. There are excellent, medications and treatments, for this. So, just know that you're not alone. If you have postpartum depression, you're not alone. A lot of mothers experience that. So if you feel like that's a thing for you, you need to get that taken care of so it doesn't ruin the relationship between you and your baby. The experience may not occur at all or be delayed under conditions of addiction or postnatal depression. Robson and Kumar, 1980, if you want to look that up. And Kumar, 1997, if you want to look that up. Yet, like all enduring relationships, it seems that the relationship between mother and child develops gradually and strengthens over time. Some infants who experience severe neglect in early life may develop mentally and emotionally without lasting consequences. That all depends on your resilience. Everybody's different, and some children are more resilient than others. For example, if they are adopted and their adoptive parents provide sensitive, stable, and enriching care, or if depressed or substance abusing mothers recover fully. And that's by Kolachova, 1972, if you want to look that up, and Dennis, 1973, and Downey and Coyne, 1990, if you want to look that up. Unfortunately, however, early neglect is all too often the precursor of later neglect. When the child remains subject to deprivation, inadequate or insensitive care, and I see a lot of insensitive care going on here out in Publix and the stores and the malls and places. Your child is your future. You have that child, so you're supposed to love that child. You're not supposed to treat that child like they are just the biggest pain in your day. And I see that out there, and it just makes me so mad. I just feel like saying, if you don't want that kid, I'll take it. Of course, I don't have room for it, so I don't say that. But I think it's sad to see mothers and fathers treating their children like they're this thing that they can just do whatever they want with. I think that's sad. Why did you bother having kids, if you didn't want them? Lack of affection, see that a lot. Low levels of stimulation and poor education over long periods of time. Later adjustment is likely to be severely compromised. And that's from Dennis, 1973, and Curtis, 1977, if you want to look that up. In general, it appears that the particular caregiver, turn my page, can't get it, with whom infants interact, whether it be their biological mother or another, is less important for the development of good social relationships than the fact that the infants interact over a period of time with someone who is familiar and sensitive. And that's from Lamb, 1975, and Bowlby, 1988, if you want to look that up. One of the problems in the later development of children who experience early institutionalization or significant neglect is that there may have been no opportunities for the caretakers and the infants to establish strong and mutual attachments in a reciprocating relationship. And that's sad, because we all want to feel like we have someone who loves us and we can depend on. That's the important thing. That's why I'm so against putting your child in the next room and asking them to cry out. That you're teaching them that you don't love them enough to take care of them and that they can't depend on you or the world. It's a hostile place. So you're not doing your kid any good. The sequence of motor development leading to walking. Okay. At 0 months, of course, your baby's going to be in the fetal posture pretty much all the time. That's their only thing. That's what's going on. At 1 month, they can lift their chin up. They can look up. Oh, what's going on? Okay, at 2 months, they can lift their chest up. It's when you see the little kid, laying there and he can pull himself up a little bit and check things out. But he's still a little wobbly. At 3 months, he can reach and miss. He ain't quite got that eye-hand coordination down, but he gives it a try. And that's important for development, so that's an important thing to do. At 4 months, they can sit with support. You hold them. You're not going to put them in a high chair yet. They can't sit up by themselves. But you put them on your lap, or, you can hold them and they can sit with support. They start to get a different view of the world than just on their belly or on their back. Oh, wow, this is kind of neat. At 5 months, they can sit on a lap and grasp an object. So, that's something you should start doing. Sit them there and let them go for stuff, because that's going to develop their torso muscles, their neck muscles, and their eye-hand coordination. At 6 months, they can sit in a high chair and grasp a dangling object. So, you can say, get it. They can get it. Before 6 months, you should keep them in the carrier to feed them, or hold them, at an angle, whatever you're doing, what works for you. We always had the carrier in the house on the table and fed them that way. Okay, we find my 7 months. In 7 months, they can sit alone. Now, this is average. This is not every baby. Your baby might do it sooner. Your baby might do it later. Everybody's different. There's no, but this is a general thing that pediatricians have noticed and developmental specialists at this age, these things happen. So they can sit then. At 8 months, they can stand with help. This is when you put your little finger and they grab it with their little hands and you walk them, around, and it's so cute. 9 months, they can stand holding furniture. This is by this time, I'd start, before when they start getting interested in that, get your house definitely baby-proof. Get all the stuff that you don't want them touching that can be a choking hazard, get it all up out of their way, because when they start cruising on furniture, everything is fair game. They think everything is something to check out and explore, so you need to make sure you get that baby-proofed by 9 months. Okay, at 10 months, they can creep, which is where they're kind of on their knees and hands and kind of scooching along. Some of them have crawled before that, Some of them raise up and crawl way before that. It just depends. Again, it's a developmental thing. Just depends. Some are sooner, some are later. Not worried either way, unless usually the guideline is a 3-month interval. If a normal baby's doing this, your baby's running 3 months late, then it's something you might want to talk to your pediatrician about. Okay. At 12 months, they pull to stand on the furniture. Like I said, they're cruising along the place, so you don't want any hazards in their space, because now everything has become their space. At 13 months, they can climb stair steps. So if you have stairs, you need gates. You need baby gates. We had baby gates. Kids didn't get out the door without us, with them. And if there was any place they weren't supposed to go, there's a baby gate. We still use them for the dogs. At 14 months, they can stand alone. Again, general rule. All of my sons actually stood before that age, so it's a general rule. And by 15 months, they can walk alone. Again, general rule. I had a cousin who's worried. 16 months, kids still, okay, it's only a month behind, not a big deal. Everybody's different. The definition of potential services for infants and toddlers and their families. Part H services required by law. And this goes, along with your Medicaid or your insurance. Audiology, which is, hearing. Assistive technology. 2 of my sons used assistive technology in school. They were ECE students. Family training, counseling, and home visits if needed. And again, that's all to do with your insurance and your provider. Family assessment. Health services only in order to benefit from other interventions. Intake and screening. Medical services only for diagnosis or evaluation. Multidisciplinary evaluation. And this is if for some reason you find yourself in social service situations. Nursing services. When I was pregnant and had Hypermedes gravidium, I probably didn't pronounce that right. But I had a nurse, who was actually wanting to come to the house, and I got an IV at home in my chair because I was having to go to the hospital, about every month to get an IV because I was just sick 6 times a day and was just dehydrated. So, that's something that they provide that's kind of nice. Nutrition services, psychological services, service coordination, service planning, special instructions, social work service, therapy services, occupational, physical, and speech and language, transportation services. If you're a Medicaid patient or a Medicare patient, if you can't get to your appointment, they will help you get to your appointment. You get these little notifications. Vision services. Now, optional Part H services, and this again depends on your insurance and your provider. Developmental child care. If your child has developmental disabilities, they might want you to put them in developmental child care that helps work on these. A lot of people call it, therapy. So, that's something to look and talk to your doctor about. Medical child care. Medical foster care. We have a place, Home of the Innocents, which, at last I've heard, provides this, where, if you're just swamped and you need to put your child in, they have medical problems, they do that. Therapeutic foster care and shelter care. Other health services. Family support, respite, homemaker, and parent-to-parent. Last I heard, I think we have, it's PB&J, mom or something, mommy and me, something like that, for at-risk families. Play, psychosocial therapy for children with emotional problems. And then other services which are not required, so not covered by your insurance or, things you have to seek these out by yourself usually. Housing, educational opportunities and vocational training, which is what you're doing if you're listening to this right now. Family planning, family therapy, culturally relevant special services, and the Butterfly Center does some of that. So, family unification services, which is what Healing Families Lives, tries to do. Because the family is the bedrock of society. So if you can put your family, together, then you're going to help the world overall. Environmental adaptations for special needs, i.e. a wheelchair ramp. My neighbors have wheelchair ramp. I have a wheelchair, but since I don't use it all the time yet, I don't have a ramp yet. So, legal services, comprehensive drug treatment, medications, dental services, after-school care, training and professional support for early childhood, early intervention, and social support staff. A lot of your neighborhood places can, hook you up with that sort of thing. Outreach programs to make extended effort to locate the child and families. And we have, a branch at the schools that does this. Like if a child has come up missing, because there are homeless children in the schools, and these people can help find these kids and try to keep them in school. And the sources from Service Delivery and Design Study, options for delivery of early intervention services, new approaches to decision making in Florida's cost implement study for public law for infants and toddlers, reprinted by permission. Now we're going to talk about developmental stages, the description of that stage, and the developmental milestones that you'll see during that stage. So the first one is sensory motor from birth to about 2 years. The child learns about the world through their senses, actions, and direct experience. You will be working on object permanence, and they will have stranger anxiety. The pre-operational stage from about 2 to 6 years. In this stage, the child learns that symbols, words, and numbers represent other things in the real world. Child does not have logical reasoning abilities. So you people who are thinking that your 2 to 6-year-old can logic things out, you're wrong. They're not there yet. That's why they need guidance. And you'll notice the ability to pretend. They like, a little block can be a car. That's actually a big step in your development, to be able to use one thing to represent another thing. Imagination, pretending, that's actually a big step in your development. Egocentrism, of course, we all know that when we have toddlers, it's all about them, the world revolves around them. Whew. So, but the good thing is, hopefully, eventually they outgrow that. And concept formation, they start to get an idea of things. Well, I did this and this happened, or if I do this, mom does this. So they start to form concepts, in their mind, and that's also a big step in your development. Concrete operations from about 7 to 11 years old. In this stage, the child begins to think logically, but only about concrete or tangible objects and events. Understands simple analogies and performs basic arithmetical operations. So they're getting there. The brain's waking up. They're getting there. They're not quite there yet, but they're getting there. In this stage, they'll develop conservation, mathematical transformations. I'm sure we all remember learning math in elementary school, and we're like, oh gosh, no, we just learned this. Now we have to go to multiplication, now division. This is crazy. How am I can't do this. And I remember thinking as a kid, it's like, what? So, thankfully I learned it. Went on to bigger stuff. Formal operations from about 12 years through adulthood. In this stage, the child acquires abstract reasoning skills and can apply these to intangible or metaphysical concepts and ideas. And this takes some people longer than others. Some people never quite get there, you can tell. But, that's the last, stage of development. Then that you'll start getting abstract logic, potential for mature moral reasoning. Again, some people never quite get that. So, it just depends. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. And potential for theoretical scientific thinking. Some people never do that either, and that's fine. I'm a scientist. If you're not interested in being a scientist, perfectly fine. But everybody has their own little deal, that they like to deal with. As long as you're using it, you won't lose it, unless there's a medical condition, which, I have, that, kind of leads you to start losing things. And that's a little scary, but, it is what it is. Reasoning and object permanence. And I'm talking about the meanings of these things. A child develops schemas or mental categories for objects that include knowledge about features or characteristics of the objects. One important feature is object permanence, or the recognition that the object has a physical tangibility and it continues to exist even when the child does not have direct sensory experience with the object. Here it is. It's gone. Oh, it's magic. No, it's still there. I just moved it. The development of representational thought. Substage 1, 0 to 1 month. Reflexive stage. The infant is dependent on reflexes, rigid patterns of behavior, and it can learn. Substage 2, 1 to 4 months. Primary circular reactions. Actions centered on the body are repeated. Like if it did something and it liked what happened, like it shook the bed with its foot and the little mobile guy shook. Oh, cool. That's something I can do. I can make that happen. And they get excited about that when they can impact their world. Yeah. Substage 3, 4 to 8 months. Secondary circular reactions. Infant repeats actions that have made some impact on the environment. Substage 4, 8 to 12 months. Coordination of secondary circular reactions. Infant can coordinate 2 or more strategies to reach a goal. Like, well, if I want to get over to that, I could move this out of my way, and I could go up here. And sometimes those things have to do with building things. Like I want to reach that on this stove, or I want to reach that on the counter. So you gotta keep an eye on these guys at this age, because they're gonna do stuff. And it's like I told my kids, basically children aren't born with all of their brain wired. So basically they're born kind of crazy. And then as you get older, all those connections get made. So with little people, you gotta watch little people, because they do some crazy stuff. Substage 5, 12 to 18 months, tertiary circular reactions. Actions are repeated, but each action is no longer an exact copy of the one that preceded it. Novelty is sought. That's when, they want new things happening all the time. They like to be entertained. That's when they get to be a little bit of work. Substage 6, 18 to 24 months. Invention of new means through mental combination. The beginning of the representation. Can think about objects mentally. Semiotic function arises in which symbols, such as using a picture of a car to stand for a car, or signs, such as words, arbitrary representations, can be used. Shows deferred imitation, can see something, remember it, and imitate the action at a later time. And as we parents know, sometimes that involves words that we used in a situation that we probably shouldn't have used, but they caught on to it, and later on, they dropped a block on their foot, and they're saying, dang. So, yeah, keep those little ears pure. The development of object permanence. 0 to 1 month. Will not search for an object that leaves the visual field. At this age, oh dear. Bless me with my sneeze. This age, if you remove an object from the visual field, as far as I know, it's gone. It disappeared out into the universe somewhere. Substage 2, 1 to 4 months. Will continue to look in the direction of where the object disappeared. So if you put a block there and then you disappear, it's still looking for it in that same place. Substage 3, 4 to 8 months. Will search for partially covered objects, but not for objects that are fully covered. Can anticipate movement of an object. So like if you had a blankie and you covered it, it's gone. But now if they can see a corner sticking out, oh, it's under the blankie. 8 to 12 months, we'll search for a completely hidden object and start to get the idea that just because it's covered doesn't mean it's not there anymore. I'm going to look where it was. Shows the A-B search error by looking where they last saw it. If a child is allowed to find an object hidden under cover A, and the child witnesses the object hidden under cover B, the child still searches in the first location. So that's, a search error, they call it, that you have to outgrow if you want to find stuff. 12 to 18 months, the child no longer shows A-B search error and can follow object through displacements. Object search is still based on visual information, and the child cannot form logical inferences that use mental representation. Substage 6, 18 to 24 months. Child does not need to have visual information as to location of object. You could tell them and they understand, oh, okay, that's where that is. Can imagine where the object is located. And that was our bell, so that's all for today. I hope you found this educational or, inspiring, entertainment, for nothing else. And I will leave a link in the description where you can, donate to help me keep doing this as long as I possibly can. So until next time.